Good afternoon, everyone. I am Priyal Verma, currently studying Masters at Jain School of Global Management. We are delighted to present you Mr. Akhilesh Tilotia, who is the co-founder of Thurro. So he's a seasoned professional spanning in consulting, banking, public policy, and authorship, who will provide us a great insight in India's transformation into the world of alternative data, AI, governance, and finance. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. So, in today's session, you spoke about the concept of alternative data. Can you provide us the insight on how it can shape India's economic and investment forefront in the future?
Thank you, Priyal, for having me here. So, what we do at Thurro also, and why alternative data is increasingly becoming important, is because while there is traditional data that people rely on in digital India and in the digital economy in general, a large amount of data is generally getting produced, which gives out a lot of very interesting secrets. This data can be produced internally within firms or organizations, but increasingly is also getting produced externally. This could happen because either companies are submitting that data to government, which is making it public, or industry associations are making that data public, or people like you and I, all of us, can go scrape and pick up that information from either the websites of the companies. Satellites give out a bunch of interesting information. So the entire external data sets is now beginning to get open, which allows us to track companies, sectors, and the economy in a much better fashion. So it's not also just about the data, it's also about how you think you will use that data, what analysis and levers that you allow on top of that. That becomes very important. In a traditional world, there are specific indices that typically, let's say, governments would put out, let's say, with respect to inflation or growth, etc. You can now begin to recreate some of those indices and to now ask of some of those macroeconomic variables because the large amount of data sets that we can collect externally. Similarly, at a sectoral or at a company level, because either industry associations or regulatory bodies will give out a lot of information, understanding the health of that sector or that company becomes so much easier. Typically, there is a lag in traditional data which will come in anywhere between a few days to a few weeks or a few months down the line. Alternate data can be far more real time because that gets reported far more regularly. Sometimes you also have to be very creative because what the data was presented for and where you can use it can be two different things. And so this is a new and an exciting field in which you can reimagine how you would look at an economy or a company.
Absolutely. So we saw how we had a discussion of energy and how you presented the data and the migration of the workers and all the data traffic congestion. So it's a very fascinating way to look at things, and it opens different perspectives and how we can see and maybe work on the investment and the future prospects.
So your ability to understand what is happening in a wider sector, and just to pick up on the tolls example that you mentioned, right? Because what started out as you and I paying tolls using fast tags, that data now being public at a meta level to understand what's happening at different toll plazas actually gives you a lot of insights as to what's happening in the local economy there, as well as at the national level, how products are moving within the country. It aligns very well with your deeper understanding of what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the external economy, because you can see port traffic either increase or decrease. So, in some sense, you are limited by your own imagination on how you can use some of these data sets to come to insights for yourselves. And of course, if you get good insights, one, it can help in better policy making, but also making good investment decisions.
So you have worked at the intersection of government and business. So what unique challenges and opportunities do you think can be navigated to work in both the worlds at the same time?
So, in a single word, the biggest difference between working for a corporate and working with the government is that in the case of the corporate, in effect, you have one stakeholder. You will do value maximization for the corporate. If you're working in a public role, the stakeholders are wide, varied, and you have to, in some sense, ensure some amount of equality and harmony between a bunch of stakeholders, and that's a very different skill set of working in private sector versus in the public sector. What it also does is that it increases the time horizons because the ability to create balance between different stakeholders may not happen at every given point in time. So the rules and pressures of saying, hey, these are stakeholders that I can keep happy now and then over a period of time, there are different stakeholders that you work with, is the entire rule of public policy. Now that's very different from a corporate where you're very, in some sense, clear that hey, this is the return on equity that I want to do, and hence this is the sort of responsibility that each and every people in the organization have to work towards. So that's one of the biggest changes that you find there. But the sort of scope that you end up getting in the public world is obviously much larger because the canvas on which you work, especially depending on where you are working in from, the scope of change that you can do is significantly wider than what it can be in corporates.
So for younger professionals who are just entering the world shaped with or driven with AI and accelerated intelligence, what kind of mindset or skills do you think that are non-negotiable?
So one of the things that we realize, especially being an AI company, is that the human interaction with AI is in some sense the superpower, at least for the near future. In a world where AGI comes in, we will talk about that, we'll see how far that is. But even today, the ability of the human being to have a conversation with AI, for it to give out the right set of information that you want, the right set of analysis that you can build on, and the right set of action that you can take, still requires a lot of good human interaction with AI. So that skill is not going away anywhere. The understanding of the underlying data on which you want that AI to run is an important one because you don't want AI to run on datasets which either you are not aware of or it hallucinates or picks up something which is very different from what your needs are. Is an important skill that a data analyst is doing, so understanding of the underlying data and the type of analysis that you will do on that continues to remain an important skill. One of the things that I hope I was able to talk about in today's presentation is the human creativity with respect to how you use data for the analysis that would suit your purpose is still a very, very human trait. Just because AI has access to large amounts of data doesn't necessarily mean it will either create the best movie or the best stock recommendation.
Or basically, it is we need to like comprehend the complexity in order to get the right solution from the AI with our creativity and data solving skill in hand. Like, without that, we cannot use AI to our advantage.
Completely, and also you know the problem that you are facing, right? Or the organization is facing. So that here is a very important understanding. What is it that you are trying to solve for? Is a very human answer to that. That's not an AI answer. If AI doesn't know the problem that you are trying to solve for, so that human empathy and the human connect is something that
the brainstorming and the creativity that cannot be done with the AI because they will have a standard answer for everything. But the brainstorming requires a team collaboration, the human interaction, to get to the extent of the creativity level and to get a different approach and solution for complex problems.
that is a yes and a no.
Maybe after that process you can go to AI, but before that the brainstorming is a must with your team.
Completely agree with you on the fact that you need different perspectives when you're brainstorming. Brainstorming is one step after you have identified the problem, right? Or the situation that you're trying to solve for. I think a lot of human element will still remain in saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to solve for. I would actually actively encourage you in terms of brainstorming to use AI and various personas that you can make AI use. Because sometimes when we do a team brainstorming also, we may still end up having a lot of groupthink or a lack of diversity in the team. In that case, sometimes actually AI can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Having said that, it will not know what problem you're trying to solve. So always where the human value will come in the most is knowing what you want to solve for. And just because data is there doesn't mean that the problem will go away. And then, even once you have the solution, there is a human layer of implementing that solution because it is eventually either our behaviors have to change or something needs to change from the insight that the data is throwing back to us. And that is still a very human process. That won't be an AI-led process in that sense.
So the last question would be like, as a policy and data analyst, your entire team revolves around the purpose-driven strategy. So how do you think should a future leader balance that with their responsibility in hand?
So I think life is all about balance. At various stages in life, both as a person and as a business leader, you will find different sets of competing priorities for yourself that happens in your personal life, as I said, and even in business or in the public policy world also, where you have to deal with a much larger number of stakeholders. How you are able to maintain that balance internally for yourself, for your team, and maybe the wider ecosystem is the core mantra that one can try and solve for. Is it easy to reach that balance? Definitely not. Is it something to strive towards? Of course, that is all the human ambition and human work is directed towards. So I wish you also the best of luck in trying